So I'm back. This is video 4 about what I call a broken church. And I kind of left off talking about the, how the church, the clergy, by taking so much control over the daily kind of institutional operations of the parish, so much control, and maybe it's just a hyper controlling priest that we have, but I think it is inherent in the clericalism. But how that not empowering of the people or the laity, in essentially that is a denial of their divinity, and people that are truly hurting, or people that try to volunteer, these aggrieved people, they leave, and they leave for some of these reasons. And I kind of left off by saying, well, hey, isn't the Eucharist about a community? And we're talking about a discommunion. And so we need to pay attention to that if that's happening, and it is happening. And so I want to explore a little bit more about how to pay. I talked already about paying attention to those people, and those events that cause people to flee, and those all those things that really we can do. We can pay attention, we can care for each other, we can create a community that wants to embody the love of God and then take that out into the world. So it's a subtle thing. One thing I noticed here, even at the last Mass I was at last weekend, it's a very interesting dynamic, and I saw it myself. I'm sitting there in church, and it's a lovely service with a beautiful choir and beautiful songs. It's a feast of the wise men, and they're coming in. There's wonderful songs, and I have this cooing baby in front of me that's just charming the heck out of me. And there's a baptism, and who doesn't love a baptism? I just felt like I was in this womb, me and all my cynicism. I just felt so good, and I was thinking about it. I was trying to listen, and I don't listen, not particularly to the words of the homily or anything, but I'm just listening to myself, my inner. And what I realize is that this is so seductive that you just want to stay in that warm, fuzzy space, that feel-good space. And there's nothing wrong with a wonderful service like that, and a beautiful group of people smiling and enjoying a communion. But what is paramount is that doesn't get supplemented for faith. That what really was crying out to me inside was, what about those others? Because that's who Jesus wanted us to be concerned about. The others, the people, the marginalized, the people that are hurt, the people who have fled. And I was challenged. I was there, and I'm like, I can't stay in this womb. This is kind of an altered reality. The real reality is these other people. And so I really think that if we're gonna break through this clericalism and this codependency that I've talked about, the codependency meaning that we prop up the abuse of the priest. They essentially just say, stay in the pews, pay the bills. You could do a few things around the church here. Maybe go out and work at a soup kitchen there, here or there. Take communion to some people out around the community. But as long as you pay the bills and go about the functionality of some of these things, all's well. And I'm saying all is not well, and that's my call. But I think it's a greater call to the rest of the community. So, how does this manifest? Well, one has to, as I said, become attentive, which we talked about. But these abusive structures can't function if they're not enabled. So you have to be aware of it. And it's subtle things like, the priest not representing, at least at Holy Name. We had this financial misspent fund problem. We had a principal at the school that was fired, and then not so much the firing was the problem, it was the lying about the firing that was the problem. And those that were tied together in that financial meeting. And so what dawns on me regarding how you respond is you respond by almost systematic naming. I've already referred to this a little bit, bringing things into the light, a naming of all little minor indiscretions, lies, or mistruths, and so forth. So we're going to call those out. We're going to make them public as we can. The problem is a lot of people don't have time for this. It's just who wants to be looking over the shoulder of their parish priest or their bishop, continually. But really, this is partly what we need to do. We need to become, I'm trying to think of the word, when you're scrupulous. Scruples when you're just so attentive to all your failings. But I'm using it in the terms of scrupulous, attentive to this power that is abusing. And I said, so if we just take the word as abusing, and how is it abusing? Well, it's denying the divinity of the parishioners by not sharing in the power, not empowering them, not allowing them to live their faith. Wow. So it takes time to ask the question, hey, what about that financial report? Hey, you said this. Now you're saying that. The primary lie being perpetrated on our parish currently is that there was a problem at the school, that because that's kind of how the residue felt at the parish level, was that the principal got fired, and there was a hullabaloo about that. Parents left with their parent and children. Some community people in the community left, and we just have to get through this. That's a lie. That's the smoke and clouds. That's the abuse happening. And it's just a one line at the end of parish when we're trying to take up a collection for the school. I know, this is what he says. He says, well, we had some problems at the school. There were some issues just last year, but we got to band together, and we got to, get on the right track, whatever the hell he says. Anyway, but that's the lie. And because the reality was what happened there was a bad leadership. It was just a bad administrator, meaning the priest. The priest couldn't administer in a healthy way. It's so bad that there's a parish policy for how volunteers are to behave and act and what their roles are, and this is all online at the diocesan level. I have never heard this priest ever. I was a volunteer. I was never trained in those policies. Never even referred to them unless he stepped out of line. Then the bishop seemed to remember the policies. The priest, yeah, he's still to this day. I've asked, is anybody getting trained? Any volunteers getting trained in this policy? Are we being held to that policy and not knowing that you're held to that policy? So there's a real duplicitous relationship with the rules there, and that's another form of abuse, holding you accountable to a set of rules that you weren't trained for. So we need to become scrupulous, and this is all with the intention of not alienating, not abusing, because what happens is the residual structure, whatever it is, this clerical structure, this enabling laity, we remain, and what will happen is this priest may not, he's not a sexual abuser, maybe 2 priests down the road, we get another one, another broken person, so broken that they want to physically abuse, sexually abuse. And then what are we going to say? Who are we going to blame? Are we going to blame the priests? Because, but we're paying the bills, so we can't blame them. We can't blame them. We can't blame the bishop. We can. I shouldn't say we can't blame it. It is a mutual culpability, and I don't want it on my watch. And I'm going to do my best. That's what I made this video for, and I'm going to continue to make them. And I'm looking for people that want to join hands and be scrupulous, pay attention to the needs of our brethren, and I have some other ways and structures that I'll go into in another video about how we can actually formally create a structure within our parish that is healthy, that has checks and balances, that has oversight, that has shared power, that empowers its members, reinforces their divinity, all these things I've talked about. So thanks for listening and watching.